Hey folks, I just wanted to put this video together to show you what was different on the TV versions of the 2003 Star Wars Clone Wars show and the subsequent home video releases. Recently I've been working with GabinDayback from originaltrilogy.com to get a complete version of this show released as best I can. Using GabinDayback's edits as a base, I added back the intros and outros from each episode I could find. Right now I'll walk you through the changes that I've found on this series and hopefully you can find it useful. Who knows? But let's get into it. So right off the bat, the first thing we did is re-add this Cartoon Network logo. This was ran through Topaz Project Starlight to up-res it from the original version of this, and you'll see this on all the episodes. The other change we have at the very end of episode 1, to keep the consistency with this shot, I've taken the last frame of the HD footage, dumped that into Photoshop, and then cut out the window. When we put the AI upscaled footage behind that window, it doesn't draw your attention as quickly. Obviously, you'll see it now because I'm pointing it out. I shouldn't be doing that. But anyway, this is a video on how we fix those things. Now, at the end of every episode, you also see the next time outro segments. So this is the first time adding these back as they would have aired around the time of the premiere. Chapter 2, you also start with the Cartoon Network and the first of many previously on episodes. As I mentioned before, we have the outros and the intros added in here. These are super easy to edit, so I was happy to find them. Quick note, we are missing the episode intro on Chapter 7, and we're also missing the outro on Chapter 10. Hopefully they show up at some point. We're also missing the bumper segments on episodes 21 through 25 because I haven't seen a single copy of them. Maybe they stopped doing those for the third season. I'm not sure. On the home media releases, Chapter 2 begins with ships dropping out of hyperspace. We have most of this shot. I put these two shots back together. We are missing a few frames here of ships moving. Photoshopped all the ships. I put them all back in. Ships I animated myself, and then it immediately dips back to the HD footage. At the end of Chapter 2, there is this shot, which was completely cut out of all home media releases. This is after being run through Topaz Project Starlight several times and picking and choosing the best frames, and this is what we end up with. And it looks very good. Chapter 3 is a simple one. We do have that shot from the ending of Chapter 2 once again, so we just copy and paste that over here. At the very end, there is a shot of the clone troopers on top of the building. Now, one of the things I've learned working on this show is they use a lot of loops. So these clouds moving is just the same thing over and over and over and over again. It's a very smart, cost-saving way to do it, and it's also really good for us when it comes to restoring this shot. Now, the first thing I can do is copy these clouds, and I make just looping video. So this clean plate, when turned on, hides all the ships. So now when we turn on all the ship layers, we now have a shot that matches the TV version very well. This looping of video is a trick you will see me use multiple times in this project. In the Chapter 4 previously on segment, we do have that same shot of the clone troopers, so we get to copy and paste that over. And then Chapter 4, because it was a wipe from the rooftop soldiers to here, we have the space battle scene, which was run through Topaz Project Starlight. Very quick changes for Chapter 4. Chapter 5 also has the laser fire in its recap, so we reuse that in that segment. Chapter 5 also starts with this slow push-in on the planet that was cut off. This one was very simple. We recreate the planet in Photoshop and then zoom in on it the entire way. And at the end of Chapter 5, there's this little smile just cut off on the home media release for a dissolve, and so we just simply did the looping video trick again, which is great because nothing moves but the tentacles. Chapter 6 also reuses this shot for the previously on segment. And we start to see a trend here. At the end of Chapter 6, we see a few frames that were cut out for the home media release. Super easy, nothing's moving. We just copy and paste those over. At the end of Chapter 7, there's a slow zoom in. To recreate this, we just took one frame, exported it out as a JPEG, brought it back in, and then matched the flashing, flickering effect it does here. Pretty convincing for a quick fix there. Chapter 8 ends with this arm moving back into place on its own, which was cut out due to a wipe, and we get to use our looping video again, this cool little trick. And then I put in a clean plate, which I created via Photoshop. And then we add in just the arm, and we animate that to match the TV show. And when we put it all together, we have a undulating arm that matches exactly as it was on the TV version. Chapter 9 is where the real magic starts to happen. Right off the bat, in the recap, you're using the arm shot from Chapter 8, so we brought that over. There is a pan down shot to a speeder bike going across the cityscape, and then it cuts to a close-up of the speeder bike riding. So we started with our speeder bike, so we recreated all of these in Photoshop, and then we add our shadow on top of that, which animates as we go. And then finally we add our speeder on top of that. And the nice thing about the speeder, since the speeder itself isn't animated, as soon as we get to the last shot, it takes over with the HD footage, and you'll never be the wiser. Now the pan down cityscape shot, so this is a series of pieces that all come together to make one whole shot. First step of recreating this shot was to find the fire and smoke and animate that into the loops like we've done in other ones. Once we found that, we could create a compound clip of that and then animate just that stuff. Now the first layer that goes on top of our looping fire is an AI upscale of the pan down from one of the good sources we had. On top of all that is a second take of the AI upscale from Topaz Project Starlight. I would often do multiple takes, upload it again and again and again at various speeds so I could get the best version of a shot possible. There's also another layer of fire animated here to cover up as we animate up the shot, just to make it look a little nicer. Finally, on top of all that, we add our HD footage from the home media release, and then we had to carry through with our own little animated Obi-Wan Kenobi. This chapter doesn't end there. We also end with another shot that was cut off with a whole lot of moving pieces. So we have to recreate this one as well. So we start with a clean plate, just kind of remove everything we can from there. Next step is we can add in 2 troopers on the left. You can see here we have a problem where they're just walking into a wall. Luckily, these guys, again, are looping, so it's very easy to get the animation, loop it, move it over. That's pretty easy to fix with just another Photoshop layer here. Let's also add in all of our little soldiers off to the right. And we'll also add back all the troopers that are following with those soldiers. The only thing left to do now is to add back our slime on the floor, and then animate those. For a shot that's less than 1 second, blink and you'll miss it. A ton of work that looks pretty good. Chapter 10 starts with this pan down from a starfield to a battle underneath. Every one of these frames was uploaded to Topaz Project Starlight to find the best version. The before and after really shows you how much heavy lifting that software is doing on this. Once everything was upscaled, we had to crop out the Cartoon Network logo in the corner and add some footage underneath there. We still had some ships that disappeared into the logo, but we were able to recreate those in Photoshop and animate them to go right over where the cropped out logo would be. Finally, the HD footage was added at the end to make this as seamless as we can make it. Chapter 11 ends with a simple shot of Obi-Wan. Luckily, he doesn't say or move. That one is very easy to add back in. Jumping over to chapter 12, this one opens with a shot of a farm right before it starts panning to the right. Luckily for us, the looping video was just before the pan, so we were able to get this in and recreate it with 0 loss. All HD footage, very easy. Chapter 13 ends with this shot of Mace Windu jumping way off into the distance. To match this, we kind of do our trick again of the looping video. We're just focusing on the kid here. His hair's flowing non-stop, looks perfect. So we add a clean plate over that with just the kid cut out. So when we turn the main looping video back on, we have a kid here, but we're still losing Mace. So we just took a little Photoshop of him. He's a tiny little layer. and then we just animated that. Chapter 14 also starts with a shot that was cut short on us. Luckily for us, there's a looping bit of snow we could reuse for this one. And then we also had the start of this shot from the wipe, so we just cover that bottom part up with the looping snow, add our dissolve, and we're right back where we should be for the TV show. Then we get to chapter 15, another fun one. We have a character talking. The start of his conversation was cut off by a wipe, and all the lip movements that are in the home media release are different from the TV show. So one thing I did was recreate the mouths in Photoshop for all the vowels. I took them, upscaled them using the AI upscaler, and then put in the correct vowel sound to match what was on the TV show. What's really interesting is once you get to chapter 16, they reuse this shot for the intro segment. Only the vowels are different in these shots than they were in the actual episode. Ultimately, it's mostly the same shot with a few different lip movements. The mysteries of the chapter 16 bumpers don't stop there, because during the outro, there's a shot of lightsabers hitting each other, which looks almost exactly like a shot at the beginning of chapter 18 that was cut off. Only this is a completely different take. The background back here is completely different, and some of the sword animations are also completely different. So I had to upload this frame by frame to Topaz Project Starlight, get it all in order, and we get a shot that's only used in this outro. After that, it cuts right to footage from the next chapter 17. The very, very beginning, I'm talking 3 frames of chapter 17 was also cut off. Luckily, it's just a star field not moving, so it was super easy to recreate. But that was a nice relaxing change, because as soon as we get to 18, this is where the real work begins. So the first thing I did is I took all of my footage, you can see here with all these edits, and I went through and edited it frame by frame, pulling the best pieces of footage from those shots. I then uploaded all of those to Topaz Project Starlight and got the best versions of each one of those uploads. This footage was uploaded to Project Starlight probably 17 or 18 different times before we ended up with the footage we had. And even then, we still had ghosting that would pop up occasionally. So then I would have to do another round to clean up the ghosting. This one shot took about 4 weeks of uploading and getting it processed to get it to the point where it is. But using the free version of Topaz Project Starlight, this is probably the best I can make it look, given my patience and money. Chapter 18 ends with this awesome shot of the rain coming down, hitting the lightsabers, and it was cut off early for the home media releases, so here we could find our looping segments and put that in. We did have to dodge some lightning, but other than that, this looks pretty good. Chapter 19 opens with this shot of a lightsaber in the rain, and there's a nice long hold on it in the TV version. We had to recreate this with AI. I also had to hide the Cartoon Network logo, but ultimately, somewhere in here, it switches over to the full HD version, and you're almost hard-pressed to see where it is. So this turned out really nicely. And at the very end of this episode, where Anakin throws down the lightsaber of his defeated foe, about 2 seconds were cut off of this. Again, looping. Looping animation. It's our friend, friends. Chapter 19 is an interesting example. During the previous segment, the battle where Anakin is fighting Ventress is edited completely differently than it was in the actual previous episode. You can see here on the timeline how many edits I actually have. And there's all these little flashes of Anakin. And these are nowhere in the previous episode or in this episode. They were just purely in this one previous segment. So it's very interesting. So these 2 shots are AI upscales. They look fantastic. The key to get really good upscales is to take a still image, put it for 1 full second, so 24 frames, and then upload that to Project Starlight. The problem with that is the free version only allows you 300 frames or 12 seconds of footage, 3 uploads per week. So there's not enough time to do that with everything, but some of these and some of the shots from chapter 18 I did do that with, and they look fantastic when you do that. Jumping into chapter 21, we do not have intros or outros. I'm not sure if they had them at all. If anybody knows, let me know. But at the very end of chapter 21, there's the shot of Anakin's ship leaving, and this does make the jump to an AI upscale. There's a little bit of jump in quality if you're looking for it, but I think it's serviceable for the 1 second and 1 frame that it's on. I think it turned out pretty good. 22 and 23 are my favorite chapters because there was no editing whatsoever. If there was, GabinDayback took care of it for me, so I didn't have to mess with it. Chapter 24 has this little shot of these mole people about to attack Anakin. Luckily for us, looping video saved the day. Nothing's really going on, so we were able to extend that back to the proper time. And then 25 opens with this pan down shot of explosions in the sky. This one is a combination of things. The main thing being a foreground only Photoshop file. So this is just consistency with the HD footage. Because if we turn that on and jump back and forth from the HD footage, you don't notice anything at all. So then we have some AI upscale footage that looks okay. I'm not happy with it, but you really can't even tell unless you're really looking for it. And this happens so quick and then immediately pans down. If I hadn't said anything, you probably never would have noticed. But now you know, so you'll never unsee it. Forever unclean. Hopefully this helps somebody out. I don't know. This ended up being way longer than I expected. Hopefully I can cut this down and it makes sense to folks. If you have any questions, you can hit me up in the comments. I'll check it out. But yeah, this is the weird thing I've been obsessed with since February for some reason. It's now May 2025. These are out there on the forums. You can check the link below in the description and, get out there and do your stuff. Anyway, I hope you have a great day, and I hope everyone is nice to you. Be good out there. If you didn't know, maybe you wouldn't even notice, but now you know, so shit.